Morning, Market Chameleon. Morning, Dima.
Morning, how are you?
Good. You sound like you're underwater again. Is your mic plugged in?
Hold on. Let me just fix that connection.
Well, while he's doing that, good morning, Market Chameleons. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'm hearing like a reverb.
Really? Should I? You want me to log out?
Yeah, why don't you drop out, come back in, and I'll do the disclaimer as we're waiting.
Okay.
All right. So while Dimitri gets himself out of the bathtub, everybody, let's go through the disclaimer. Let me share it. Market Chameleon is not a registered investment advisor or broker dealer. Market Chameleon does not make recommendations as to particular securities or derivative instruments. You have to do your own research. We are just here providing a look at the tools and how we use them, and particularly how this man used them. Dimitri, you're back. You there? Can you hear us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep. Well, the disclaimer's done.
Okay.
Let's move forward. What are you seeing this morning? What are you thinking about doing?
Okay, so we'll start out, see what's moving in pre-market hours, and I think I'll just continue on with the stock screener. From yesterday, I think we could do a couple more example filters. And if there are any questions, let me know. Try to answer as many questions as I can before the end of the show. So this is here the pre-market report. Stocks trading at pre-market hours. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. I'm just noticing one here, AMD up 274%. That looks like, right before the show, I was looking at some of the headline news. And again, that's that Reddit community. They start talking about stocks, and a lot of them have been going up tremendously. I think here on the most active list, these top three look to me like these are all coming from that Reddit community. Wish, CLOV, AMD, they just, from even yesterday, they're adding on to gains. And what is this? Because I was looking at some of these volumes and they're enormous, like they're not only moving up, but the sheer volume, and force behind these moves is incredible. And we haven't seen that before in all our years, right?
Well, to give you an example, the SPY, which is usually the indicator of the options market for volume, I think either GameStop or AMC surpassed option volume of the SPY yesterday. I mean, the option volumes are just incredible. So, it's
not a small group. Yeah, it's not a small group. And they all work, in tandem. For whatever reason, whenever it comes up, you're just seeing this massive amount of trades flown into the options market, into the stocks where they pop up. And you could see that there's just, at some point, there's just illiquidity to the upside. There are no more sellers, no more places to barter short, and we're seeing huge pops in these. Like, people are just getting out of the way. So here you go, up 274% in the pre-market hours. This is lower market cap stock, 26.8 million. 17 million shares are trading in the pre-market hours. So I'm just going to bring it up really quickly.
Yeah, and you have to be very careful if you're going to, always have to be very careful and do your research. But if you're playing this game, it could end badly.
It could end very badly too. Yeah.
Super careful if you're selling premium because you think the premiums are really high. I mean, I would only do it through a spread, and it is still super risky. And if you're buying a call to try to benefit from an upside move, you're going to be paying a lot of premium. So you got to be really careful playing these stocks.
Yeah, because they just break through all the liquidity to the upside. Some of these don't just have as much stock available out there, and you see what's going on. Like,
out of curiosity, AEMD, can we look at the option chain, see where those upside calls were priced yesterday on yesterday's markets?
Yeah, and I think that this started this morning, right? So I don't see yesterday. It was pretty tame. It was
really?
$2.21. This is this morning, 291%.
Yeah, no, I just wondered how the options were pricing. That's why I was wondering how they were pricing yesterday.
We could take a look, but it's a $2 stock. I'll see even has options, but
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. It is only
you know,
$2.
I
So
don't
this,
know. Yeah, I don't know if this even has options on it, so it doesn't.
yeah.
This is a pretty small stock, you know, $2 stock, but you could see here trading 17.5 million shares in a pre-market. Its float is 11.6 million. So more shares traded hands just in the pre-market hours than the entire float in existence. So that's what you're just seeing, huge uh, spike to that upside. Um, just thought it would be worth mentioning because I'm seeing these all of a sudden, more and more of these. It started with GME, then it went to AMC, and now we're starting to kind of see a pattern, spilling over to different stocks. If there are no questions in the pre-market, if you wanted to take a look, actually, let me see this one. I think, what did you want to show? The options chain, like to the upside?
Yeah, and I just wanted to see, yes, like it's moved today, but I
Yeah.
wondered what it was doing yesterday, before the move, how rich those options looked yesterday.
Right. So you could see here, look, yesterday up 50% in the pre-market. It's adding another 26.7%. I'm just going to go to the summary real quick, just take a look at the trading stats. I think this is what you're referring to. So yesterday, 570,000 option contracts traded in this stock, Wish, compared to an average 12,000 per day. So you could see that's way over, like where traded, where it usually trades. And look at the average volume in the stock, 8.5 million. Yesterday, 230 million shares traded. I mean, that's already, in line with some of the most active high cap stocks out there. So this is just showing you the amount of force behind these moves is incredible, because this community, I don't know how many people are on this in this group, but we're
Yeah,
talking about.
it's one of the biggest. Wall Street Reddit is one of the biggest groups on Reddit.
Yeah, and it has to be like millions of people out there on.
Yeah, I think it's tens of millions.
Tens of millions, following through on this trade, because like I'm looking at these volumes and they're absolutely incredible. So I think that's what you were trying to show, right? Oh, on the options chain, sorry. Really quickly, you could see here the options chain have, a lot of volume here trading. And I think, just to show, like, here's upside calls, 20 with 8 days to go. You got the 25 strike call. So you could see here, look, the stock closed 1163, 25 strike call, over 115%. It has to go up by more than 115% in the next 8 days for these to be in the money. 41,900 options traded yesterday. I'm just going to take a look at the open interest. 22,000 contracts on this line alone. I mean, it's really like what we're seeing is something.
It's amazing. I just looked at the Reddit forum. They're 10.5 million like followers of that Wall Street Bets platform.
So 10.5 million, yeah. And obviously, not only are they following, but millions are taking action.
Yeah, well, we had a chameleon who hasn't been on in a while, Goat. I know he's active in the Discord. He had contacted us, I don't know, 5 months ago about trying to build an algorithm that was going to be able to read that Wall Street Bets. And I've read since then, there are numerous hedge funds that are actually scanning the data in Wall Street Bets to try to front run the crowd. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is treating it almost like a newsletter. The person who reads it first, that's how Wall Street kind of does it. You have analysts, and then they issue a newsletter, recommend the stock, but the people who are the customers get to read it first, and they issue it out to the public. So those people, who get in first are usually the ones that are the biggest benefactors. The ones, once it gets out and once you see analyst upgrades and downgrades being published all over the place, it's already too late, right? You're
Yeah.
just getting in, you're just taking over the stock of the person who read it first. So they kind
Well,
of
I'll tell you the thing that's interested me the most, and I mean, it's lasted a while, right? I mean, we've been talking about it for 6 to 8 months. I mean, it's like this GameStop doesn't go down. I mean, it has big sell-offs, but it's not like, going all the way back to the teens. It's like,
Yeah, so far they've been holding on to a lot of their gains.
yeah.
AMC, game stocks. So yeah, it's interesting going forward, like how long this is going to last, and if this is just going to be a new way of you know people trading, forming Reddit groups. Let's move on to the stock. If there are no questions, though, I'm going to move on to the stock. But here, well, here's something. I'm just looking at it. The 10 puts, right, which the stock's $11.63. The 10 puts are offered $1.55. The 25 calls are $1.10 bid. So I mean, like, you're talking about, this is $1.63 out of the money. These are, $13 out of the money.
Yeah, amazing.
Not big of a premium difference, right? You're better off like buying the put, probably buying the stock. But since the show is going to be on the stock screener, I'm just going to move on.
All right. As you do that, congratulations on the show yesterday. Lots of compliments from the chameleons in the chat, D. I did put a link to that webinar. It's an ongoing series once a month. I think we go next July. Is it the 12th or the 18th? But we'll put that out there when it comes close.
Yep. And whoever joined, thank you for joining yesterday. If you didn't see it, we'll have a link there. And it was on implied volatility rankings. So I'm coming back to the stock screener. We talked about this yesterday, and it's a place where you could narrow down. You got 10,849 different securities here, and it's a way to narrow down if you're looking for certain stock behavior, certain stock attributes, fundamentals, and you want to build a story, and this will be a starting point for further research. But you can always, but the idea is to filter something of interest down to, if you could get to a few candidates, or a handful of candidates. And what we did yesterday was make some example screens. And what I did was I went to some of our preset filters, and we did, I think yesterday, correction territory, stocks that are in correction territory, stocks that are in the bear market territory. I think we did stocks on an uptrend. So we'll do a couple more today to see if we could answer some questions and just get people familiar with some of the filters.
Yeah, I remember there was a question, and Robert happens to be on this morning. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. He was asking, is there a way to screen out? He wanted to screen out Chinese ADRs or ADRs in general. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah. So if you go to the filters, I think stock attributes, and you have like a little scroller here. So you have a couple. If you don't see them all, you could come down. But under here, you see country. So if you just go to country and you pick China, this will filter out like the Chinese companies.
Perfect.
Like that. So I'm going to filter that, but that's one way to do it, just by country. Let's take a look at I'm going to take a look at some of my other preset filters. So these are not available to everyone because I just wanted people to get started. I didn't want to fill this up too much because you could create any of your own. But I'm just going to take a look at some of these other ones I've been playing around with. So let's take a look at Dividend Aristocrats, high yield. So yesterday we did stocks where I think they're either trending up or they're bearish. So we did kind of that type of behavior. Some people look for stocks potentially that just pay dividends, right? And start out that way to see which common stocks have potential to appreciate and also pay a dividend. And the dividend aristocrats are basically stocks that have been paying, dividends for a long time, right? A long period of years. So I chose this filter, and here we have lit up which filters, how many of the filters in each of these folders are being used. So here, 4 of them on stock attributes, none of the other ones, they're zeros. So let's just take a look at these 4 filters. The first one is I chose components in an ETF. So this was the ETF NOBL, which is the Dividend Aristocrats ETF. So it's going to use those holdings. Basically, that ETF tracks which Dividend Aristocrats, which stocks belong to the Dividend Aristocrats group. If the one falls out, a new one comes in, they're going to track that in that ETF. So I'm filtering out the components in that ETF. And to filter it down even further, this is what we have set. So we're looking for dividend yield. I have it set to at least 3%. Again, you could come over and you could go in here and change all these. We also looks for the last 3 years, and it's saying in the last 3 years, we want to see some dividend increases, right? So in the last 3 years, maybe once a year or twice a year, but we want to see a trend where it's not just paying the same amount of dividends year over year, but it's actually at least increasing it year over year. So the idea is, well, if you buy it and it continues to increase a 3% yield today, if the stock hopefully appreciates and the dividend continues to increase, a couple years from now, it could be a 5 or 6% dividend because they just continue to increase, right? So we're looking for in the last 3 years that the company increased their dividend at least 3 times or more. Okay, so that's what this filter is looking at. Also, we don't want to see a company where it increases it and sometimes decreases it, because then it's kind of inconsistent. So to offset that, we're going to look for decreases. There are none. So out of the last 3 years, at least 3 times the company increased their dividend, but they haven't, and also they've never decreased their dividend in the last 3 years, not from one quarter to the next or from year to the next. They've never had a decrease. At least it always either stayed the same from quarter to quarter or went up, right? So that's the 4 filters that we have set here. And then we could come down here and see, well, which companies came out. And it looks like there are 13 companies that met that criteria. Then, once you go in, or you still want to check them, right? You got Coca-Cola, Chevron, ABBV, IBM, Walgreens, Kimberly-Clark, Realty Income, and so on. So I got 13 stocks here. And that's kind of like where you want, if this is the criteria you're looking for, and you want to find a good stock, you still want to see, are these stocks fit your other, fundamentals, growth, are there regulatory issues? Are there any other issues? Because you don't want to just go out there and make investment without further research. You still want to know what the story is behind these stocks. You never want to just do that. Here's a symbol and go do it. But now you got at least 13 potential candidates that you want to go there and research and find out more about what they're doing, the health of the company, read the news. But I'm just looking at the screen here. For example, Kimberly-Clark, something that stands out is that this stock is in a downtrend, right? So if we look at the moving averages, why is this stock on a downtrend? If the stock market is moving higher, if we're near our 52-week highs, what's going on? Because this stock's obviously not moving the way the rest of the market is moving. You want to go in there, find out, what the issue is before you do anything in there. It's got a 3.5% dividend yield, but maybe the market is trying to tell us something. You want to go try to find that story to see if you agree with it, not agree with it. But again, I just want to emphasize these are starting points, to your research. And we got like a good mix of stocks here, right? We got like some, we got like, Coca-Cola, beverages. This is an energy. You've got a real estate company in here, you know, technology company, I guess IBM. So good mix of stocks in here to take a look at. Maybe you want to do a few of them, but again, this is just one example of narrowing down some candidates. If there are no questions on this one, I could do another screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's take a look at, so some people want to take, you might want to, this was looking at a dividend. Some people look at price action. Maybe the price action is telling us something and that warrants a further look. So let's take a look at positive alpha. Okay. So here you could see I got 1 filter on stock attributes, 5 on the price, volume, and technical, and 7 over here on daily average stats. So I got a lot of filters on here. The idea behind the positive alpha is we're trying to pick stocks that are not, I don't want to get low cap stocks, but a little bit higher market cap stocks, but they're outperforming the market. Because why do they have positive alpha? They're doing better than the rest of the market, right? So that's what we kind of want to see, which stocks are doing better, and those could be potential candidates as well, right? If they're outperforming, maybe they're just doing better in this economy, or their future expectations are better. So the first one, stock attributes, here I put market cap over 1 billion, price, volume, and technicals. So got a couple things here set in the last 7 days. I'm looking for a stock that's up over 2%. I just have that set. Obviously, you could change any of these. These are starting points. In the last 2 weeks, whatever the return was for the stock, what this is saying is it has to be better than the return in the SPY, which is the S&P 500 index replicating ETF, right? So if SPY is trying to track the S&P 500 returns, and we want positive alpha, then our stock, we want those returns to be higher than the S&P. So I have that set also last 3 months and 6 months. So we could see here that in the very short term and in the intermediate term, 3 months, 6 months, the stock has to be outperforming the returns of the S&P 500. Average stock volume, I also put 750,000 in here at least, because when you get below that, it's very hard. They're very liquid. Even 750,000 on average per day is not that much. I'm going to go here to the average stats. And here I got a bunch of filters as well. So here, again, what this is asking is percentage. These are looking at the last 15 days, last 30 days, and last 90 days. It's looking for daily returns over those periods, okay? Now I could show you, let me go to that. So here is the data for those last 15 days, 30 days, and 90 days. So what this is doing is saying in the last 15 days, how many of those days do you want, what percentage of those days do you could set you want it to be positive, right? So 60% of those days, 70%, you could pick 90% of those days or above 90%. But in the last 15 days, you could set, the minimum amount of days that you think should be positive versus negative. So if you want more positive days, showing consistency, that's more often it goes up than down, you could pick that. What I have it set to is it's pegged to the S&P 500. So whatever the number of days SPY was up in the last 15 days, let's say it was 50%. What this is saying is that it has to be then up more than 50% of time. So more days, more up days than the rest of the market or SPY. Okay, that's what this is saying. Average return over the last 15 days, you could set a minimum. So it's taking average daily returns. It's acting like if you reset your position every day to the same amount. So let's just say if you risk $1,000 every day, you reset that your positions at the end of the day is risking $1,000 the next day. So if the stock went up, you would be selling some to get back to $1,000 risk notional. If the stock went down, you would have to buy some more stock to risk $1,000 notional. So that's what daily returns are. So here it's saying if you did that every day, average daily return, any positive. So here's the last 15 days. Like we'll look at Google. So Google in the last 15 days, 67% of the last 15 days, Google closed higher. The average return, daily return, is 0.4%. Again, remember that's if you're resetting to the same notional risk on a daily basis. The standard deviation of those returns is 1.12%. So this tells you how much daily returns vary around the average. So the higher this is, the more the daily returns are fluctuating. And this here, the Sharp is taking your average return divided by the standard deviation to give you a ratio. So the higher the Sharp, the better, right? Because you got more return for less unit of risk. So that's for the 15 days. Then you got the same stats for 30 days and 90 days. So you could see in the last 90 days, Google, 59% of those days, Google closed higher on the day, and 41% of the time it closed lower. On average, daily return 0.3%. Here's the standard deviation in Sharp. Okay, same thing 30 days. So here you can see for 30 days, what do I have set here? Average return has to be positive, and the Sharp ratio better than this in SPY. Basically, average return for average unit of risk is better than this SPY, and same thing for 90 days. So these are all you could go through and look at each of the filters I have set, and then you could just start changing them around, but it gives you a starting point. Does that make sense to everybody? So
let us know if that makes sense to everybody. It's a little bit of a delay, so it'll be a minute or so before we hear back.
So you could see some of the ones on the top made the top of the list. Google, Oracle, that's Morgan Stanley, American Express, IBM, Goldman Sachs, Target, Vail, PLD. And I think these are right now sorted just by market cap, right? If we go here, we could just even sort it by, I'm going to come over here. Let's do it by Sharp. So in the last 15 days, BSY showed the best, Sharp. So you got EBR, DEN, CCI, BNL. These are probably a little bit more lower market cap stocks, but BX, I think that's Blackstone, IYR, so that's the real estate REIT, starting to outperform the market. So again, just showing you a couple. We got like a minute left. Showing you a couple different ideas how to get started in the stock screener using some simple filters to narrow down your potential candidates.
Awesome job, Dima.
Okay.
It's a webinar every morning here at Market Chameleon Live. It's great. Good stuff. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. Have a good trading day, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow.
All right, Chameleons, one last time, I'll put the link to yesterday's IBKR webinar. It was a great one. A lot of comments on it today. Have a safe trading day, and we will see you tomorrow morning.